So good morning. How is everybody? Everybody good? I'm going to stand on this just like a rock star. Like I've always wanted to do this. So we're excited for this morning. This weekend, let me get back up a little bit. You guys know that for the last few weeks, we've been in this series called What is Love? And so we've been taking you through a different journey, different aspects. We've talked about what it looks like to experience the Father's love. We've talked about what it looked like for all the single people in the house, what that looks like for you to understand that waiting isn't necessarily a bad thing, to find the right person. We've talked a little bit about just Jesus and what that looks like and how He is love. And so today we're gonna kind of end this What is Love series by giving you the opportunity to hear from 4 different couples in the church. And so this weekend we had a marriage workshop. We had a marriage workshop this weekend. It was awesome. It was amazing. Really good. If you are a married couple in the house and you didn't make it, you missed out. Because it was really, really good. My friend Darren, who's with us today, led it. Him and his wife Deborah led it. It was awesome. We had about 10 couples here on Friday night. And on Saturday, just kind of listening and talking and going through some different things. And so we want to continue that conversation today. And the reason why we want to do that is God has really laid it on Kim and I's hearts this year that we need to make sure that we're pouring into our marriages. For 4 years as a church, we've done everything that we can to reach Southeastern and to reach students and to reach this community and whatever community God has placed us in. We've done outreach, we've done all kinds of stuff, and we will continue to do that because that's our heart. But this year, God really laid it on our heart that we wanted to pour into our marriages. And the reason why we wanted to do that is there's unity in that. In the church that has strong marriages, there's unity in that. And in unity, God shows up and God does some things. So I hope that you will bear with us today. I think today is going to be good for you. Even if you're not married, here's the idea. Take notes because hopefully one day you will, right? And if you, because you're going to hear from 4 different couples today that are in different aspects of their marriage, different places of life. And so there's going to be somebody on this stage today that you can relate with somehow, some way. And so what I want to do is I'm going to introduce those couples, and then I'm going to introduce Darren, and then we're just going to kind of have a conversation for the next few minutes around that. And then after that, Kim and I got a really big announcement that we're excited about, that we can't wait to share with you guys. And so let me do this. Let me pray for our day, and then I'm going to introduce the couples, and then you guys will just make your way on stage. Father, we love you. And we're so grateful for today, grateful for an opportunity to be here at your house, Father. I pray that today, as people are sitting out here, Lord, as they see couples on stage, as we continue to have this conversation about what is love and what does it look like for marriage, Lord, thank you for this weekend. Thank you for Darren and Deborah and the way that they poured into our couples this past weekend. Lord, I pray that today would be fulfilling for us, Lord. I pray that there would be something on here, something that is said, something that we can walk away with, Lord, that could change our marriage, could change our relationship, could change something, Father. Just pray that you would anoint this place. I pray that you would anoint this time and that you would just show up in a mighty, mighty way. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, so first I want to ask Tim and Jenna, if you guys will come on up. If you guys know Tim and Jenna, you guys can clap for them as they come up. That's pretty deal, right? Tim and Jenna are special to Kim and I. They are a young couple, entrepreneur, all over the place. Jenna starting businesses every day. It's really cool like that. Oh, by the way, they have 3 kids under the age of 5. So, woo, right? And so we're excited to hear from them today. Donna and Lewis, you guys come on up. Donna and Lewis, you guys know them very well. Excited to hear from them today and what that's going to look like. And they are some of Kim and I's best friends. And then, let's see. Kim and I, where are we at? Her. Yeah, Kim. So that's good. Who's the other couple? Oh, wait, it's Kim and I, right? So it's really good. And then I'm really excited because we have some friends of ours that are from Fuel. You guys know that Kim and I were at staff on Fuel for a long time. They were part of our parent church, so to speak. We have some friends that I'm really excited to hear from today because there's something special when you hear a couple that's been married 40 plus years and had a godly marriage for 40-something years. There's something really special in that. And so some friends of ours, Lynn and Larry, you guys come on up, have been married this year. That's all they've married 48 years, right? 48 years they'll celebrate this year. They've had an amazing godly marriage for the last 48 years. So there's some wisdom in that today. And so you guys will have the opportunity to hear from them. And then Darren, come on up, man. Darren is a friend of mine. He led the workshop this weekend. Him and his wife. This is what he does. He does marriage counseling, not really counseling, but marriage coaching. He is a very dear friend of mine, and he's going to kind of just lead us in a discussion. So listen, even if you're not married in the house, do not tune this out, because I promise you, there is something in this that you are going to be able to take away as we kind of continue in this series. So, Darren, take it away, Darren.
Awesome. Well, good morning. Buenos dias. I said to Dick, because I don't know what that means, just howdy. We're in Poe. Whatever. So, hey, thank you guys. What a diverse crowd. That means we're all a little crazy. So I thought we'd start, cue it up with an easy question for everyone. How long have you been married to each other? Yeah, so we'll start here and just work our way down.
We've been married for 8 years, together for 10.
Awesome.
We're at 13, together for 15.
We're Lynn and Larry, and we have been married in 17 days. We will be married 48 years.
I'm Kim, and we have been married for 20 years. We'll be 21 in May, and together for 22.
So a few beavers in the room. It's funny if you were here for a week. That's about 89 years if I'm doing my math. That's a lifetime, right? And I know for some of us it feels like that. No, don't say that. So here's the first question. I'm queuing it up for everyone. What year was the best year of marriage and why?
Who wants to go first?
We'll go. The best year, well, when we got the questions ahead of time. So, when we first got that question, we kind of looked at each other, and our initial answer was like, oh, the first couple of years of marriage, which we refer to as BC, before children, was awesome. And so that was kind of our first initial reaction, was like, oh, before we had children, that was the best years of marriage. But after further realization, we kind of decided that the best year of marriage was actually last year, 2019. We had quite the season in 2018 for a lot of different reasons, and 2019, we really came out of that season in just a beautiful way, and I think it brought us closer than ever. So I would say, yeah, like 2019 and like now. Best year of marriage so far.
Awesome. And you don't have to agree, by the way.
It's easier.
Yeah, it might go better for lunch might be splendid if you do.
For us, I'd have to say it's 2010 when we had our daughter Veronica, because we tried for a couple of years. We almost gave up, and then the Lord blessed us with Ronnie in 2010.
Our best year of marriage was in 1992. That was the year that we were married for 20 years. And all kinds of wonderful things happened that year. Our careers were at their peak. It was just, God was blessing us right and left. And because of the accomplishments that Larry did at his work, we were given 2 all-expense-paid trips by his company. One to the Western Caribbean for a week, and the other one was to Charleston, so that was great. Then my niece and nephew, who were 9 and 12, and their father, my brother-in-law, was diagnosed with throat cancer that year. And so we took those kids to Disney World and for like 5 days. And those kids had never been on a vacation. They had never flown in a plane. They had never stayed at a really nice resort. So it was, again, we felt like God really blessed us with being able to do that for them. So.
I was going to say, today is actually my birthday. It's not my natural birthday, it's my Christian birthday. 51 years ago today, I became a Christian as a high school senior, and it's a real special day for me that way too.
Wow.
I would say for us, I mean, Kim and I kind of looked at the question and kind of just trying to think through it a little bit, and we had talked, and that like this past year has been our best year of marriage, and so we've been married 20 years, but this past year, which has been the craziest, by the way, of our marriage, with all the things that we have on our plate, that you guys know, between planting a church and working full time and all the things that we've done, going to school. And so it's been the craziest, busiest season of our marriage, but yet it's been the best. I think just because we've had to work even harder to make sure that we stay connected. And so because of that effort that we've put in to stay connected, I think it's made our marriage, this has been the best year as we look forward. We're really excited about that. So.
And so I think, if you hear and think about the answers, the seasons, right? That there's ebb and flow, and that's a beautiful thing. So I'm excited to think about my 48th year of marriage, if she'll still have me. But I've already told her, by the way, if she ever leaves, I'm going with her. Tim and Jen, I want to ask you guys a question. So 3 kids under the age of 5, businesses, crazy life. Now you're not dinks, dual income, no kids. You're whatever that is. After that, haven't thought of that acronym. But how do you do it? What's your secret for success? How does God sustain you through that?
One day at a time is what I would say.
Yeah.
One moment at a time sometimes.
One child at a time.
So we rely heavily on our support system. Both of our parents live here, and so the grandparents help with the kids a lot. We both have flexible schedules with their jobs. That also requires attention outside of normal business hours too, so it's extremely chaotic around our house. And we just try and communicate as best we can, sometimes better than others. And I don't know, and we're very intentional with time for each other. So we have time for the kids, time for work, and time for each other. Like we do date nights every other Wednesday. We have a babysitter that comes in every Wednesday. It comes at a certain time, and we go on our date for a couple hours, just time away from the kids and to talk, just about us, not about work stuff usually. But yeah.
The only thing is, 2020 we started the date nights. 2019 we kind of failed with the date nights. We were kind of like, we tried to remember the times that we had been out on a date in 2019, and we couldn't really remember any of them. And so 2020 we were like, okay, this is something that we are going to write down. Like this is a goal that we have, is to have date nights every other Wednesday night, on a regular basis. Like that's something that we have to be intentional about, because we'll go, days at a time where I feel like we hardly see each other because life is just crazy. And so those date nights have been really awesome for us. And we don't come back until after bedtime. The babysitter does the bedtime routine, because anybody who has young kids knows that that's like the craziest chaoticness of the day is right before bedtime. And so on our date nights, we do not come back until after bedtime. We do all kinds of different things, but we don't come back till after bedtime.
That's smart.
Well, and I was wondering whose bedtime you were considering, but after 8 it's my bedtime, so I wasn't sure if you made sure you were home by 7:55, the bewitching hour. You guys were kind enough to tell us your best year. If you would, what do you think was your hardest year and why? So we'll start with Devin and Kim down there on the end.
It's at you. I would say the hardest year of marriage for us was kind of a combo. It was year 2 and year 3. We had got married when Kim and I met. Cassie and Leslie, our older daughters, were 2. And so I had later adopted Cassie and Leslie, but we met. I came in as a 22-year-old kid trying to all of a sudden get married with 2 kids under the age of 2, and thought that this was before Jesus in my life, by the way. That I was all about my buddies and hanging out and drinking and partying and doing that, and I had a wife and kids at home, and it took me a little while to kind of figure out what it meant to be a husband. And so year 2 and 3 were really difficult for us. We honestly truly didn't even know if we were going to make it out of year 2 and 3. We used the nasty D word a little bit, and threw some things around, and weren't sure if we were going to actually make it out of that. But God had a plan. Even though I hadn't given my life to Christ, even though we weren't in church, God had a plan. Honestly, here we are 18 years later, sitting on the stage, pastor of the church. And so, but I would say year 2 and 3.
No, I definitely agree with that. We looked at each other at our 3rd year anniversary and said, we didn't think we were going to celebrate this anniversary. It was bad. And everyone says, oh, the first year of marriage is the best and the worst. No, that's a lie. For us, it was the 2nd year because everything that was cute the first year was not so cute the 2nd year. Like, put this lid on the toothpaste, please. And that was him saying it to me, not me saying it to him. So, just being completely transparent. And I love what you said about God had a plan for us because even though we weren't in church, there was that moment that really and truly God, I was praying about it and God said, don't worry, I've got this. And I told him that. He laughed at me because he didn't believe in God. And I wasn't in church at the time. I'm like, really, God? Because, I haven't been very faithful to you. And he was faithful to us. And so, there's always hope. And I think that's the thing. And we look back at it now and to see God's plan on it has just been amazing. It's taken a lot of work and a lot of effort, but it's been amazing.
Larry Lynn. Okay.
Okay.
You're not having to, I feel like you're only doing
Okay. I'd say probably 1998 was our toughest year. My dad was very active. He had a large yard and he loved to work out in the yard. And he was mowing his lawn and on a riding lawnmower and had an accident. And the lawnmower ran over him, not the blade part, but it got trapped on top of him and the engine burned about 75% of his body. And he was in intensive care at Ohio State University for 9 weeks, and he eventually died because of the severity of the injuries. But it was a real hard time because I was at the hospital. If I wasn't working, I was at the hospital with my mom, and everything was trying to support that issue. But it was a real difficult time trying to struggle through that. I'd say that the most difficult.
Yeah, Larry pretty much said it all. I was at home, and my office was in our home, and so I had to spend a lot of time there. And then by the time he would get off of work, he wanted to go right over to the hospital, and he would spend till like maybe 10 at night. So we didn't have any meals together, which was unusual for us because we believe in eating together as a family. And then his sister came from Denver, and she ended up losing her job, which is terrible because your dad's dying, but they can't accept that you've got to be gone 9 or 10 weeks. And so she lost her job, and it was just a really, really tough time. But God pulled us through it, and made us stronger because of it.
So I agree with Ms. Kim. The first 2 or 3 years were pretty rough. Louis and I both have been married before, and we both have children from our previous marriages. So just getting to know each other, getting to the disciplinary part, which I do, he doesn't, was a little hard, and plus we still have our ex-spouses to contend with. So that made it very, very, very difficult the first 2 or 3 years. And then after that, in 2010, when we had Ronnie, my oldest daughter, her father passed away in the military. And Louis didn't understand why I felt, burdened. And I'm like, well, that wasn't my daughter's father. So we went through that stage, and eventually we understood. But those the first 2, or did. You're not. The first 2 years were very, very tough on us. And like Ms. Kim and Pastor Kevin, the D word got passed around a lot. But after that, you know, I grew up in church, he didn't. I started praying and, you know, telling him we have to go to church and just praying and fasting and reading the word and, you know, God brought us out of it. And we're better for it.
Okay, so to preface the worst year of our marriage, I'm going to say that not areas for growth. We both come from homes that have been married for a very long time. Our parents were married for many years, and so so we both had really good examples of marriage coming up, and very committed relationships, and therefore that kind of transpired into us. The D word has never been used in our home. We won't ever use that. It's not an option. But to say that, we still have hard times, don't get me wrong. We had this perfect plan for our life that we were going to have 2 children, and we were going to just have our businesses and work hard and just go throughout life and have this perfect idealistic plan. And then all of a sudden I got home from work one day and she lays 2 pregnancy tests on the counter and goes, "Hey, guess what, I'm pregnant." So to say that through a wrench in our plan was the least, is the least way we could say that, because it was very, very hard on us, and that was 2018. We went through that. The entire time was a struggle for both of us, because we just didn't know how to handle that third child. I don't know why it was different for us, but it was.
There's something about being outnumbered.
Yeah, it was scary. And then it turns around 2019 is our best year. So it's amazing what God can use that you think is absolutely horrible and wrecks your plan to be the best thing that God can do. And it brought us closer together having a third child, even if we are.
Awesome.
So, having baby number 3, 2018, the start of 2018 is when I first became a business owner. And I went from being just a hairstylist a couple of days a week behind a chair, doing the mom thing, like that was my life. And then I became a business owner, and so I purchased the salon I worked at. And all of a sudden I became a leader of 10 people, and I felt a lot of pressure, and I put a lot of my business things before my family things during that 2018 time. And it kind of put some distance between us, and that hadn't ever really happened before that time. And so then I found out I was pregnant, and I believe to this day like that God used like Ivy's surprise number 3. I just believe that God used her to show me specifically that like He's called me to so many different things, but the first thing that He's called me to is my family. And so it took me a while to get there. Don't get me wrong, it took me a while to get there, but I think that's what made 2019 and now like so beautiful, is because we're just so grateful that we have a third baby. We just look at her and we're just like, I can't even imagine that when we first found out about you, we didn't want you. And here she is, and she's just the best. And so God really used Ivy to kind of put us where we needed to be. So we're really grateful.
Yeah, Mama said if you want to hear God laugh, just tell Him your plan. Right? I think it would be remiss if we didn't, I got some questions to juggle, and I know we'll never get through them, but Lynn and Larry, so 47, almost 48, if you had a secret, because we live in that society, just give us one succinct answer that we can take out of here, but if you had one secret for how do you do this for 47, we're going to go ahead and say in confidence and along with you in profession of faith, 48. 17 more days, Larry. You got this. What has that been and why?
I would definitely say, if at all possible, for those of you that aren't married yet or hoping to be married sometime soon. The most important thing, and I know it doesn't always work out because if you fall in love, sometimes that's all you can see. But we feel like you've got to be married to a Christian to begin with. Like Larry said, he's celebrating 51 years as a Christian. I will be 51 in September. And we did not start dating until after that. And so our entire dating career and our marriage has been based on God. And we've always gone to church. In fact, he was going to a different church from me when we started dating. And most young people, I mean, I was a senior in high school and he's a freshman in college, don't even want to get up to go to church. And my mother was just like, what's going on here? Because not only did we go to his church every Sunday, but we went to mine. So we spent the entire morning, every single Sunday in church, and we just loved it. So I would say that's the most important thing. You need to have a lot of respect for each other, and you have to learn how to compromise. You know, it can't always be your way, or this is what I want to do. You know, you have to look at it as a two-way street. And I think if you can do that, it's not always perfect. It's not always easy. But if you have those kind of goals in your life, it really does help to make the marriage really good. And of course, having God and Jesus as number one makes all the difference.
And I'd say too that a lot of the ease or difficulty in marriage is trying to compromise. If you want to do something and your spouse wants to do something else, come up with a solution that you both win, that both are satisfied with outcomes, just to be flexible that way. I just think it's real important that developing interests and getting involved in your spouse's interests, take part in it, the active role playing with what the other person likes to do. Fortunately, Lynn and I both like to travel, and over the 50 or 48 years we've been married, we've traveled to 44 countries, foreign countries. And the funny thing is, the way we decided each year is we said, this year, Lynn gets to decide where we go, and then next year I get to decide where we go. So that worked out pretty good, because that way over the time we got to see everything we wanted to see. And God blessed us richly in our travels. Just to be blessed to live in this country and have the freedoms that we have too, and to see how 95% of the rest of the world lives is a good education too. So, but I just think common interests and whether it's financial, whether it's things you like to do together, it's all important that you're on the same page.
Well, and to that end, you know, every question we've directed so far has been for folks who are married, and obviously that's probably some of you in the audience, but for those who are not, and we'll start with Kevin and Kim, what advice would you give to the unmarried, thinking about marriage, considering marriage?
For those that are not married, I would say don't settle, because sometimes it's that, oh, I don't want to be alone and I've got to find somebody. Don't settle. So for us, we have prayed, we're going to get checked up and periodic because this is part of our transition, but one of the prayers that we have prayed for our 4 daughters since we become Christians is that God would protect their hearts and that they would be blinded to everyone except for the one that God has intended them for. And for their future spouse, that they would be blinded to anyone except for our daughter. And for some of them, that has worked. And for some of them, it hasn't. And so for the reason I'm emotional is our oldest daughter is about to get married, and truly her fiance is an answered prayer for us. And so for those that aren't married, don't settle. And if you don't know what you want, make a list of what's important to you, and it should be physical. Like, I want blue eyes and big muscles, because God does have a sense of humor and He will send you the exact opposite. Although, because He's got red hair and big muscles and hazel eyes. But what do you want? That Christian, that godly characteristics, that sense of humor. And then if they don't have it, move on. And move on quickly. Because you can't teach them how to be kind at the age of 25.
I would say, especially since I shared the hard part of our marriage, year 2 and 3 was when I didn't have a relationship with Christ, that number one is put God in the center of your marriage first. Die to self, die to your own selfishness, and put God first in your marriage. It will change your marriage. It is something special in that. But the other part of that is, I would say, if you're not married or you're about to get married, or maybe you just got married, like, fight for your marriage every day. Like, fight every day. Like, not argue, fight, but fight every day, because marriage is difficult. It's the most amazing thing on the planet, but it's also extremely, extremely difficult. 2 different people with 2 different personalities and 2 different thoughts and processes in the same house trying to figure out how to live together. As a line is an honor from this weekend. You don't know what that is. But
You missed out.
you missed out. But anyways, I would say fight for your marriage every day. Like, strive to fight for it, even if you don't want to give the effort, even if you're tired, even if you don't want to, fight for it, because it's worth it. So.
I think one of the things that I would encourage people to do when they're contemplating getting married or finding a mate is to have God be at the head of that decision and guide you in your insight and discernment about the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And since most marriages, the vast majority of marriages, probably end because of money and disputes over money. One person's a spender, one person's a saver. Let God give you the direction in how you spend His money, because God's given you everything you have. He's allowed you to live in a country like you live in, and to be able to work at any job you want to do. But with the money, give it back to God, and don't let a dispute come up over money. If you rely on God to direct your decisions, that is going to go a long way. Lynn and I have been retired for 17 years. That's young. But God brought us up being frugal. We followed our fathers, both of our fathers and mothers lived long marriages. They were frugal, they lived through the Depression, and that is how we raised ourselves through our marriage. It's just thanking God for the blessings of what we have, and giving back as much as we could do to glorify God.
The most important thing, obviously, is to keep God first in your marriage. That's the most important thing. And pray, and don't rush it. It's okay to push the brakes a little bit. Just make sure it's 100% what you want. But as long as you center God in your marriage, He will bless you. That's His word. That's His promise to us.
One thing that we're really passionate about, which I think it's awesome that the couple that's been married for 48 years is said the same thing that we were going to say to that question, which was your finances are super important. If you know us at all, we're big Dave Ramsey people, and we teach Financial Peace University, and that's something over the years that we've just become really passionate about, teaching young people that are thinking about getting married, that are young married people. And it's just super important to have a plan for your finances. He's the finance guy, I'm on you.
The number one reason for divorce in America is financial issues and troubles. So if you're not married, get your finances in order and get your relationship with God in order. Those two things will help you get married and have a successful marriage. Marriage once you are married. It's that simple. I mean, I say it's that simple, but it's that simple. Get your finances in order and get your relationship with Christ in order. And you put yourself in a position to find the right person. If you have neither one of those things in order, I don't think you have a chance at succeeding. You will fail. And that's what we see in our country replicated time after time
after time. Time for one more question, or maybe two, depending on how short your answers are. Donna and Lewis, you guys obviously are an interracial couple. Certainly would have faced some challenges along the way. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those that might have been a surprise to you?
It wasn't really a surprise. I mean, we haven't really faced many challenges. We kind of knew what we were getting into. Like I said, we both have been married before, and his previous wife was also black.
He has a time.
And my ex-husband was mixed. So, and growing up in my household, we were taught, like I said, I grew up in church all my life. We was taught color doesn't matter. Right. It's the respect someone gives you, you reciprocate it back. My biggest challenge would be for, his mom. My mom accepted him easily. His mom, I didn't know that she's very, very racist. So that's very racist. So that's the hardest part that I have to deal with, that we both deal with. Because I'm respectful to her. I have to be respectful because she is my mother-in-law, my husband's wife, but
Your husband's mother.
I'd love to see if somebody thinks
That was the second biggest challenge.
my husband's mother and his stepdad, they're both very, very, her husband, they're both very, very racist, very derogatory. Anytime we're around each other, you have like the little black jokes, I call them. And, so I'm a very outspoken person sometimes.
What?
So it's kind of hard to bring it in and be respectful, yet forceful in getting my point across. And then we get the looks, of course. I'm more, like I said, more vocal. Take a picture, it'll last longer or something. He's very, very, very calm, collective. But those are, I think that was the biggest issue. It doesn't create a problem with him and I in the respect that we love each other. We knew we were getting in when we got married, and we're stuck together for life. It's caused an issue between him and his mother, which I've tried to iron out, but then I have to learn that he has to do it on his own. I can't do it. But I just pray for her and just love her because, she is his mother, and I respect her as that. So I think that would be the biggest issue.
Liberty, I'm going to take. And so for Kim and Kevin, last question. Leading a church, being involved in business, and having a family, which is also a challenge. What's the secret to keeping it all together? What's the secret sauce?
We have it all together.
How do you balance those three areas?
We are learning. I think that is the biggest thing, is that communication is big for us, is that we have learned that we have to talk to each other because if not, something's going to fall through the cracks. And we have learned to, I think especially over this past year, we've had to learn how to communicate not only what needs to be done, but how we're feeling. And we have had to set some safe spaces. So for instance, our bedroom, church talk is not allowed in there at all. Work talk is not allowed in there at all because we are constantly running, and there would be times like, okay, it's like 11 o'clock at night and it's the first time we've seen each other and we're like, oh yeah, hey, well what about this and what about that, and we can do this, and what about this outreach and da-da-da, and we kind of just had to say, no, this is our space, and so we don't talk about that. And then respect, I think a lot of that too is because we lead together. There are times that we have to have hard accountability conversations with each other too. In fact, this week, we each had to hold each other accountable to say, hey, here's something that you haven't been doing that we need you to do. And so to receive that in the manner that it's to be given without saying, well, what do you mean? So we have to sometimes separate ourselves. I don't want to use divorce ourselves from our role as husband and wife, but separate ourselves and step out and to say we're peers and we need to say this isn't acceptable.
I mean, I think Kim touched on what I was going to say. Is we just had to set some boundaries in some safe places. Many of you guys will understand what I'm talking about. If you're around me for more than 5 minutes, there's about 1,000 hamsters a day that run around in my head. Constantly. I never quit thinking. I never quit dreaming. I never quit thinking or stopping about anything. Like my mind is literally running probably 24 hours a day. It seems like even when I'm sleeping. And so we'll be in a safe place, and I'll be like, oh, hey. And the hamster will kind of work its way around, and it'll drop down like, hey, oh, and hey, and oh, hey. And so we've done a really good job, her better than me, saying, safe place. Like, we can't talk about that here. Like, it needs to wait till tomorrow. And then I literally have to take a note in my phone so that I'll remember to ask her, because that hamster will be long gone in like 5 minutes, right? And so, but setting the safe places for us in the course of the last couple of years, I think has been really good. And then again, just making time for each other. Like we schedule date night once a month. That's what works for our schedule. And so if it has to be on a Sunday afternoon, whatever it is, like we have been pretty good about setting date night or date day, whatever you want to call it. But just trying to make sure that we never quit dating one another, even though we've been married for 20 years. Like, let's not quit dating each other. Because you do everything you can when you're dating someone because you want to pull them in. And then you get married and you get lazy. Like, don't ever quit dating your spouse.
Awesome.
I would also say for our families and stuff, so there's some things that we've created some safe, and I don't use this word lightly, so hear me when I say this. There are some sacred things in our family that are, like, don't mess with this. So one of this is like dinner time and meals. We call no phone zones, and that's pretty sacred with us, that we don't want the phones at the table because we want to actually, talk to each other. It's an interesting concept, but so if we call a no phone zone, everybody in our family knows, like, you put your phones up, including the adults, like, they go away. I don't care what's happening, they go away. Another thing that's become a pretty sacred tradition, and y'all gonna laugh, but it's Sunday afternoon naps for us. Our kids know, like, we go to lunch, we go home, and we've got at least an hour power nap. Don't interrupt our nap time, because that's our recharge time, and our family knows that, and they like, Katie texted Cassie last week and said, hey, this happened, and she's like, are they sleeping? Don't wake the bears. And then we're being very intentional about scheduling in family time too, because we don't want to burn our family out on ministry. This is something that we have the opportunity and the privilege to serve our God. And we've made mistakes about that in the past, and we want our family to love, to be able to serve. We've been blessed where our children, all of our children like to serve, and they get to serve, and we want them to continue to have that passion to serve in whatever capacity they have. But we also want them to know that they can have a life and a family outside of church. And so we want to make sure that they see mom and dad as mom and dad, just not pastors.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you guys for being vulnerable, for sharing, for exposing yourselves here a little bit in your hearts, and give it up for these guys.